Hello and welcome back. My name is Josue Peralta here with this emergency podcast flying solo today. I have a couple things to talk about. Number one, I want to touch on season 3 and everything that happened there. I want to touch on season 4, some new projects and some other things you can be looking forward to, as well as something a little special to me that I'll get into a little bit later. Abby and Mike obviously couldn't make it. This is just an impromptu thing. So I want to thank them for being part of this whole podcast, and thank you guys for listening. I'm going to try to do this in one cut with no cuts in between. I should say in one take, but let's see how this goes. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for having tuned in for season 3. We had an absolute blast shooting it. It was a lot of work. We had a good time though. We felt like the topics were pretty hard, some hitting harder than others. One which we expected to hit harder than it did, or by hit harder, I specifically mean be more controversial, was the one on divorcees. And that one we did get some feedback that, was in one way or the other, and as well as the one on dating single parents. That one we thought we were going to get a little bit more hate on, but we didn't, thankfully. But either way, we're really thankful that you guys tuned in for the entire season. We had people reach out to us saying like, "Hey, when's the next episode?" And it was then that I realized that we didn't do like an end to season cap or like a prologue of some kind, which is why I'm sitting here today to make sure that we go ahead and do that. Throughout the season, you guys seem to have a couple of favorite episodes. The first of those that was the favorite by far turned out to be the Connected and Alone podcast episode, I should say, the loneliness paradox. And I guess that does make a lot of sense, in the sense that we're all dealing with loneliness in one way or the other, especially if we're single and whatnot. That one got a lot more listens and views than I thought it would, followed by number 2, which was the one on long distance relationships. That one got a lot of views and a lot of listens, thankfully. And you guys really connected with that one. And the third highest one was the perfect partner myth, wanting people who don't exist. That was a pretty interesting one too. My favorite, I would say, out of all of them, was probably the shrinking, how therapy has changed dating, because I know the doctor and I, we spent a lot of time consuming podcasts on, relationships. How can we do better? And we just do that on our own time because we're crazy and we like to do a lot of that stuff. But that one was putting our own little spin on it, which I thought we did a good job on. And I'm really glad we did that one too. So, just want to say again, thank you for tuning in. And I've said that a lot at this point, but I really am. One thing I do want to get to is, I guess, is an apology. This season, we had little to no social media presence, which was an absolute crime. And I want to apologize for that. We had some issues internally that we weren't able to get to, which is why we didn't post a lot of reels. Actually, we didn't post any reels at all this season on our social media. And we didn't even share the podcast on our stories. So our social media was practically dead during the season, and that was a total crime. I want to apologize for that. It's going to be better going forward. So don't you worry. We're going to get back at it. And I have something about that a little bit later on, which I'll get to later. And lastly, regarding the season, I just want to thank all the new listeners. You know who you are, especially those new in Europe. We want to thank you. Welcome aboard. We're glad you have joined us on the pursuit. We are loving to have you here. And I call this an emergency podcast because today is Monday, July 21st, and it was exactly 2 years ago to the day that The Pursuit was born, that we uploaded the very first episode. So today, The Pursuit turns 2 or 3 seasons deep, producing our 4th and even another side project. So we're super duper thankful, especially me. Because the whole podcast, like I said, started with how the doctor and I, we would just talk a lot about relationships. We would talk a lot about just the things that are important to us, and how, being Adventist, how that's kind of sort of unique for us. And I know a lot of our listeners are Adventist, and we just felt like that nobody was having these conversations. But for years, I was just so scared to get in front of a camera, to get in front of a microphone. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like I guess I turned into a perfectionist at that point, and I was just like, God, I don't really know what the heck. And I was just so scared. And then it took like a huge thing going wrong in my life for God to wake me up and to hear me say, "Hey, do you hear me now?" And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care if it's bad. I'm just going to put it out there and see where it goes. And now to see where it is now, I'm just super thankful, and I could not have asked for something better. I'm, it's 3 seasons deep that people still talk about it. They still share about it. That's something that, started with Abby and I, our own little private conversations, to see where it is now worldwide, every continent, is just something really special and something that I don't take for granted at all. So yeah, it's special for it to turn 2 today. Yeah, I guess I wanted to make sure to thank you all for having joined us on this journey and for being a part of the pursuit, because the whole pursuit name started because we by we I mean I wanted it to be flexible. I wanted it for us to be able to talk about the pursuit, not just of a romantic partner, but also I wanted to do a pursuit of God as well and his word. So I wanted it to be like flexible in that way, because God is like the most important thing in my life. So I wanted to make sure that we could do that or pivot to that sometime in the future. And maybe we will, when we run out of topics or stuff to talk about or something like that. But it's so nice to be on this pursuit of our partners and future partner, and of God as well. So that's why it's called The Pursuit, and it turns 2 years old today. So awesome for that. Looking forward to season 4. We are looking to change gears. I thought that we had a lot of good conversations. I mean, we've had over 40 episodes now, or 30 some odd episodes, but 40 plus uploads at this point. And I wanted to change gears because I feel like we've talked a whole lot, to the point where I kind of want to see if our theories, our thoughts, our messages, our kind of way of viewing the dating world and the dating life is just if it's valid in one way or another. And the way that I thought to do that was to turn to and have, turn to the young married couples around me that I know, that we could then sit down with them and have a conversation. So the whole plan, or the idea, which is in pre-production at this point, nothing set in stone, but the idea in my mind is that we sit down with these young couples, married at least a year is, part of the criteria. And we just sit down and we talk about different things, things from like, what were they like when they were single? What were they like during their dating journeys? What were they, what was it like to get married, quote unquote, young? Because a lot of the couples that I know got married, relatively young, including my brother, obviously, who we're looking to have as our first guest, him and Jiracy. And how the experience is different now from dating to being married, and still being around my age. So I want to see what that's like from their perspective, and how they view us as single people, and what they think of the dating game nowadays. I'm curious to see what their perspective is on all of that. So that's coming next season. We're going to sit down with a handful of at least I want around a dozen couples to come and sit down and see what we can do. And I guess I definitely want to see what their perspective is and kind of go from there. I'm really, really excited about it as we coordinate with them and kind of go from there. And I think it's especially interesting because some of them have children now. What's that like? Some of them are multicultural. What's that like? How is that different from a lot of the ones that, are Hispanic marrying Hispanic and things like that? So I'm just excited to get used to just get to it eventually, and just talk about those different little things. So that's season 4 coming soon to a podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts near you. We have a new project also. Now, this one's a little interesting because we've been getting correction. I've been getting requests to do this for a very long time, since we actually started the podcast. But because it just takes so much time and money to produce like these podcasts in general, to do this other project was always on the back burner. It was just kind of like a no, like we'll get to it when we get to it. I'm not really sure. Like we'll see what's up. Like it's not really that big of a deal. And that has always been doing the podcast in Spanish. Now, again, it's a very long journey because, like I said, producing one of these seasons a year is already a lot of work, right? So then doing like another one is like an additional season that has to be produced, that has to be shot, that I just didn't have the time for. But God just kind of wouldn't leave me alone about it. And recently, I got in touch with with a guy that we know who has connections to let's say, a distributor, a radio station that's very known to all of us, that would be willing to give us a shot to share this podcast on that radio network. And that's something that we've wanted to do with the English one as well, like on 3-band radio, just to pitch them. I don't know if they would do it, obviously, but just to pitch them or something like that. But on the Spanish side, we have kind of been in, and we've been getting requests to kind of do a Spanish one. So with the whole idea of, man, there's actually like a way for distribution to go wide, we've been getting increased requests. I've been meeting a lot of people who, don't speak English, or like my parents and my family who, they don't consume the English one just because of the language barrier, or my grandma, or things like that. All of that is kind of led us to this point where, with a lot of prayer, I was like, God, I don't really know if I can hold on. And I really feel like you really want us. I really feel like you want me to do this. So I kept praying about it. And then in May of this year, where I think the podcast, I should say, season 3 had finished airing at this point, I met a couple of Dominican chaps who, we sat down and we just kind of had like a really chill conversation. And one of the things that was in my mind that was just like, I don't really know if we should do this or not, was doing market research. Where I live in the United States, I know the American culture, I know the American audience, as far as, what I've been able to gather through my experience. But I haven't had the opportunity to learn or know much about Latin America, even though I am Hispanic myself. And even though I am, like I said, even though being Hispanic, that doesn't give me the insights that being Hispanic but living in Latin America or Spain, which we have listeners in Spain as well. Hello to you all out there as well. I don't know what that's like. So then reaching that audience, I was like, do podcasts, are they even like a huge thing out there? If they are they more secular? Is there already an Adventist version of this? Is there already a Christian version of this that's tackling this? Like, there's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. I could just point people to that one. But so then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to go see them. I'm going to check out the fact that, see if there's actually like a market for this, if this would be a hit. Again, going back to the whole radio thing, I was like, okay, well, if those two align, then maybe this could be something. So then I went and I talked to them, and they clued me in on the fact that, yeah, this would actually be a huge hit. There's nothing like this that currently exists in the Adventist church. And there are some in Christianity, but again, none that I guess a lot of Adventists would be able to share amongst each other or something like that. And I was like, man, okay, this is actually be really, really cool. But when I was talking to them, it dawned on me that because I don't know the dating scene in Latin America or anything like that, I should probably get some co-hosts who do live down there and who are down there. So I talked to a couple of them and asked, I talked to all of them, and I gave an open invitation to see if they would be willing to sit down and kind of do this Spanish version of the podcast with me. And a couple of them were down. So right now we are producing the Spanish version of this podcast, a little bit different, obviously, a little bit different flavor, a little bit different pace and structure and things like that. But again, it's geared towards the Hispanic market, which it encompasses all of South America, Latin America, Spain, and Spanish speaking countries, that I'm excited about. Like, recently just got just got the branding together, got the writing down, pre-productions and pre-production hell is in full force. But we start shooting in a couple of weeks, and that's really really exciting. That this project, which was supposed to be just a season long, has turned into 3 seasons. Plus now the Spanish version of the podcast. Plus now a 4th season coming. Very soon. It's just something that is marvelous to me that God is working that way, and I want to be a good steward of it. So I'm really excited to kind of see where it goes. I don't really know what it's going to look like, because again, like just the way that they're all Dominican, so and I am too, but like the way that they relate amongst each other, living there is very different from the way I approach things. So it's very cool to kind of see and experience Dominican culture in a way I haven't in a very, very long time. So, I mean, I might assimilate. I hope I assimilate to them and start making jokes. And it's just going to be like something very, very new that I hope is not, that, or I should say, that doesn't just stick to Dominican audiences, but in fact, just appeals to a lot in that huge part of Latin America that is in need of conversations like the ones we're having. There's like a lot of the episodes that we did like 90 minutes or 2 hours on, we can, or I'm thinking to break those down into like multiple episodes so that we can like just touch on a lot of those things like in detail. Like my thought process earlier on was like, okay, well, if somebody was only going to hear one episode on mental health, well, let's make sure we pack it all in there, but now as we know our audience, and as things have changed, like obviously, like I know a little bit better now. But I'm just excited to kind of see where it goes, and I hope that God blesses it. I know He will, and that that all this effort is really just gonna go for His glory. Because, like I said, a lot of these conversations need to be had, and they just aren't. Not because a lack of money, because the church has money, but it's just a lack of vision, and that's something that God has given me, and I want to make sure to put it out there, and I want to be a blessing. So I don't know, I'm just excited for it to come out. I'll go ahead and share it on this stream and this channel as well. So for those Spanish speakers who want to have a different taste, a different angle of similar material, you can go ahead and listen to it and kind of follow us there in that journey. But if you aren't Spanish speaking, please go ahead and pray for it, just because, like I said, I feel like that it's going to go probably even wider than this one, just because, again, there's nothing even similar to it. So I have this feeling that God's just going to do something amazing with it. So if you would please pray for it. I'm really excited about kind of what God's going to do there too. So again, to recap, season 4, change of gears. We're going to be doing married couples, and then we're going to do a Spanish version of the podcast. Both of those go in pre-production, one after the other. So please pray for me so that I can get enough sleep, and that the episodes are good, that the writing is good, that the editing is good, and that we can, again, hit social media with a force this time around, that those issues won't be there and whatnot. So I just, again, ask for your prayers. And speaking of social media, I guess I want to try something a little different. I mentioned earlier on that I was scared to get in front of a camera and scared to get in front of a microphone, just because I'm an idiot. But the deal is, now I'm, nearing 30. So I kind of had to just put myself through a crucible this summer. And it was probably one of the worst summers I've had. But it was good in the sense that I finally have been getting over that fear of getting in front of a camera. I mean, look at me. I'm in front of the camera right now. And for those of you who are listening, this is a quick reminder that all of our episodes are there via video. So please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube. You can find it at The Pursuit by Baerstone. Baerstone, again, is spelled Baer Stone. And you can, again, see this video and all past videos and things like that. But something that is nice now that I've kind of gotten over this fear of getting in front of a camera and just getting more comfortable, with an audience, which I can't see, is the fact that I want to share the process of what it's like to produce the fourth season and produce the Spanish version of the podcast. I feel like some people would be interested in that. I know I would be interested in that. So I'm going to be doing like a series where I kind of walk through, okay, here's what happens here. Here's what happens next. And then we just kind of go on from there. The whole idea is to bring you guys along, give you like a look behind the scenes to kind of see how I do things and how like why it takes so long to produce, or where all the money goes and just whatnot. It's just an interesting look that I thought you would be interested in. Like I'll just give you something which I haven't told a lot of people, which is the fact that I want to build an actual set for season 4 for all of our guests who come here as couples. So like that would, I have to ideate a way to, to build 3 or 4 walls here in the house, which is pretty spacious, which I'll be able to do. But the whole building process, painting it, decorating it, just building the whole set. Like Chris, my brother, is going to be coming on board for next season, to help with like with the production side, that being like the audio switching and the camera. So I don't have to worry about it while I'm recording with the audience. I was going to help with the writing, behind the scenes and things like that. So just a lot of that stuff I felt you guys would be interested in. We can go ahead and do that. And to catch that, you can do that on our social media. Again, on Instagram, it's everywhere. It's thepursuit.bs for Baerstone. Again, that's thepursuit.bs for Baerstone. And that series is starting sometime in later this month. I'm hoping, obviously, or in early August. Again, that's on social media that you can find that there if you're interested in the behind the scenes. And lastly, the premiere of season 4 and the Spanish version of the podcast, the release dates for those are coming later this year as well. I'm hoping sometime in the fall, not the release date of the podcast themselves, but when the premieres will be. I'll release like a little trailer so that you guys can get excited, so I can get excited and kind of go from there. So, that's been a pretty long-winded way to say that there's a lot coming, like I said, and just, again, thanking you guys for all of the support. I couldn't have been here without you guys. We couldn't have been here without all of your support. And I feel like I feel like I'm not talking to just a camera anymore. I'm not just talking to a microphone anymore. I feel like there's people who are connecting to this and who come back to listen to certain episodes time and time again. So it's just a very nice feeling to know that God is really working on something, and it's humbling to know that I can be a part of that plan. So again, thank you. I will catch you all next time on The Pursuit. And again, see you all later. Cheers.